And we often look at somebody who's 20 who's doing incredibly well, and we don't think about the 10 years prior.
Yeah.
And you often, like when you're in that position, you don't think about the 10 years that you put in. You're just like, I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, I assume you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
What in the world did I do to, but then you go back and you see the YouTube videos, you see the editing, you see how it progressively gets better. I see
Yeah.
the Q&A where you put the N, the Q and then the letter N and then the A. Now
Yeah.
it's like an ampersand, which is funny how the Q&A evolves like that. But it's like you see the work,
Yeah.
but you don't feel the work when you're in this moment.
Yeah.
Like, does that lead to some
Self-doubt.
self-doubt?
Yeah, like, I always feel imposter syndrome. I feel like I don't deserve anything I have, and, like, all the time. Like, I'll wake up and just be like, why am I here? Why did I get so lucky? Why did this work out the way it did? Like, sometimes I feel like there's so many kids in the world that could do exactly what I do, and sometimes I, like, feel guilty. It's, like, almost like growing up with, like, 2 loving parents,
Mm,
and, like, you're around kids that, like, your friends are, like, have divorced parents, or, like, you're around kids that don't have any families, they're fucking orphans or something, live with their
mm.
grandma, and I feel like that sometimes when I'm, like, hanging around other editors or something like that are just as talented as me, but they haven't had opportunities, and I try to give them opportunities, I try to plug them in with people I know because I feel like deep down, maybe I don't deserve this as much as other people, and I think Izzy Alzante, I might have
Adesanya.
yeah, I might have
Israel
completely
Adesanya.
destroyed his
You
last name.
absolutely did.
I'm sorry, Izzy. I love you.
You made a great video about him.
I love Izzy, bro. He's the guy. I'm wearing his fucking merch right now. I
Oh,
love Izzy.
wow.
But he has like this TikTok I saw where he was like, I when he like won one of his first big fights, he went out and bought like this really nice car, and he drove it to the gym the next day. And these people, like his homies, like saw the car and were like, "Oh, it must be nice," and it like crushed him because he felt like, "Oh, like these guys that are like saying it must be nice were so much harder worker than he was." He felt,
Mm.
and then he like didn't drive it for like 3 days or something. And then he says in the clip, he's like, "But then I was thinking, like, I still got I still have the car, and regardless of what happened, I still put in my work to get this car, and I deserve this car." And so he like felt a little better after, and I'm still trying to get that way with my like situation and my job and all these opportunities I've been given
Mm.
because I have so much imposter syndrome about it still to this day. Even right now, like, why am I being filmed talking about editing?
Mm.
I don't know, but I'm here.
A huge part of having a podcast at all and then interviewing people is forgetting the perception of the other people, which is so confusing because this is being broadcast to people. But can you simultaneously forget other people's perceptions
Hmm.
while also caring enough to give it to them?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give you this video, I'll
Hmm.
give you this piece of audio. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
You can listen to it, you can critique it, but you're here and we're giving them the opportunity to judge it. But
Yeah.
we don't care about their judgment. It's a weird contradiction that you have to hold.
Yeah.
And when you do have that, you get freedom on the other end.
Really.
Yeah, think about it. Like, actually sit with that. Like, what would it look like to release the video
Hmm.
without judgment towards what other people would think about that video?
I'd probably just be like, "Oh, it is what it is. It happened, and now it's out in the world."
You start to find joy from the process of creating it.
Yeah, and
Not
that makes so much sense because I made like this VHS video, and I hadn't like just made something to make something in such a long time. And I remember it was like a Thursday, and like the whole team was away or something. I had like the day to myself, and so I just woke up mad early and just made the whole video in one sitting. And I spent like 13 hours on it. I didn't move, didn't eat, didn't go to the bathroom, nothing. And after it was done, I like felt so happy. And then I just put it out and I'd never checked the comments. I checked the comments like 3 days later and I was just like so happy with it. I just kept watching it because I was just so happy. And so that makes so much sense. We're like, instead of like making something for the algorithm or using retention editing or all those other things that I do have to use for my job, like when I made that VHS video, I see what you're saying. Like it was just pure joy because I was just so happy making something.
It's so wild too because you're training yourself with your job
Hmm.
to care about the views
Yeah.
because more views equal better job.
Yeah.
But that's not true for the creative spirit. That's not true for us as human
Yeah.
beings, as creative beings. It's like It would be weird if we wrote a journal entry and then we were like, how many people like this journal entry?
Bro, I do that when I write journal entries. I'm like, dude, when somebody else reads this one day, I gotta make sure this sounds nice. I don't know why, but I'm like that.
What the hell are you doing?
I don't know.
And I mean that with kindness and love.
Yeah.
Of like, what are we all doing?
Yeah. Why do we care?
When we're in our own journal, thinking about what other people are going to think of it.
Yeah.
That's messed up. That's our own space. What space is for you?
Yeah. Do you think there's a way to like find a happy medium between both? Like if you're a YouTube creator, right? I would love to be a YouTuber one day. Is there a way to find so much joy in making something, but also keeping in mind retention editing and keeping in mind these things, but also finding like joy in it? Because I found when I made that VHS video, I loved it so much. I didn't care what people thought, but I was looking at like the retention thing on YouTube and it was like 93%. And I was like, oh, I still did retention editing while I was making this one thing that I really loved, and people did like it. And so I was like, I think finding that happy medium between those two is like, that's when you change something. That's when you unlock some shit.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because I think that you've drilled into your head the best way to edit to keep people engaged.
Yeah.
But then when you go to edit for yourself, you're trying to keep people engaged because you learned the things, but you're like, all right, like let me make this for me.
Yeah. And I find when I like edit vlogs for myself or any other video, I like there's insecurity behind it. Like today I released like a video essay I made and it was like a little more like deep and like not as silly, but I still use Subway Surfer gameplay to like keep people engaged the whole time. And I like captioned it and I like somebody left a comment. They're like, bro, you don't have to use, they were like, I say this with love. You don't have to use Subway Surfer gameplay to keep people entertained. Like we're just going to watch the video. And I thought about that and I was like, fuck. Why'd I use Subway Surfer's gameplay? I felt so stupid.